You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kelvin, and with me today, it's Christos and Amy. Hey, Christos.
I'm great. It's been a busy couple of weeks for me, so I am happy to be home, actually. How are you?
Yeah, good. The spring weather has finally arrived in Manchester, so it's really, really nice out today. And I've had a nice weekend, lots of quiet things around the house and garden. How about yourself, Amy? How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. It is also spring here in the desert, as much as it can be spring. Don't get me started. I'm trying to learn to enjoy desert landscape and desert beauty. So I've been doing a lot of walking, and there's a really nice trail. And yeah, the cactus are in bloom, the brushes. It really is getting beautiful. So it's been nice.
Oh,
Good weather
yeah.
here.
Yeah, spring has sprung in San Diego as well. It was like 74 degrees yesterday, and all the gays are running around in their tank tops and their shorts. And then by 4 p.m., it gets chilly because that's like San Diego spring, is we can do all four seasons in a day. So yeah, by about 4 or 5 p.m., it's down to 60 degrees again already. And you're like, oh, okay, I kind of wish I had more on.
Oh.
Well, I've learned something already today. I had no idea cactus flowered. So there you go.
I'll have to take a picture on my walk next and send it to you.
Nice. Love it. Excellent. Well, we're back, and we are obviously on Discord, which we've all been plugging like you wouldn't believe. And we've got some listener feedback. Amy, would you like to read the feedback that we had from our Ken Mitchell tribute last week?
Yeah, so this is from my previous host, Kevin Scar from Galaxy Class, and he's now hosting a new show, Batleth Battle, with Joe Keegan. Just had to do a little plug there. So he writes, great tribute to Ken Mitchell, folks. I thought it was lovely. My favorite teacher in high school, who taught French and drama, contracted ALS in my final year. It was so hard to watch someone so vibrant and active deteriorate like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Kevin.
Bless you. Yeah, it was a very bittersweet episode to record last week. It was joyful and sad all at the same time. So I hope we did Ben proud.
This is the bridge. All hands to emergency escape pods.
Escape pod.
We didn't say who was going to say it. It's so weird when Mark's not here. It's like, who's going to scream?
I know, we're a mess.
So we are on episode 4, Face the Strange. What a lovely, fantastic, amazing episode. I'm going to just start with that before I go into too much detail. Amy, what did you think?
I didn't care for this episode.
Ooh, controversial.
I found it to be very predictable. I was not intrigued. I got confused with the time jumps. And I talked a lot about this on Let's Fly. If you take a listen to that, it was the most predictable I've ever seen Star Trek. We knew Raynor was going to find his moment and then not be so gruff. And it was lovely. It was Stamets. And then him and Burnham come together, and now they're going to be united and go forth and lead Discovery. It just was so, and we knew it was a lovely, that spider bug, the time bug. I mean, that was cool that it was a time jump bug, not just a tracking device. So that was good. But then it's like, okay, we got to figure out. I don't know. I just wasn't impressed. But
Ooh.
how about you,
Wow.
Christos?
I loved it. Which is, but I probably loved it for some of the reasons you hated it. It was really kind of funny. Where it just goes to show you, it's kind of just what your preference is.
Yeah.
I liked that the time bug thing was just a thing, and it's a one episode thing, and it's not something that was going to drag on where they were going to be being spied on for the rest of the season until they figured it out, or because that's really what I thought at the end of episode 3 when Adira had it put on their sleeve. And I liked a lot of people have compared it to Voyager Shattered. And I really kind of liked jumping through. Basically, it was a good retrospective of Discovery, the series, in a year that it's wrapping up, and they didn't even know they were going to be wrapping up. I mean, seeing Sonequa Martin-Green play Michael Burnham, like early Michael Burnham again, and the costumes, and I liked that they were jumping around a lot, and you were seeing how much the show has gone through in their 5-year journey. And it really was kind of a love letter to Discovery, whether they tried to do that or not. And I liked that. I just liked that aspect of it. And I liked it. I know what you're saying about Rayner, and it's kind of fast. Everything's happening fast. Like, there's not a lot of exposition when something comes up on the show. It's being introduced, it's being dealt with, and it's resolved. And it's so in that respect, it's become very episodic because it's not these throughputs that go through all the season. But I wasn't really up. Rayner is, he's a hard ass. He's a little bit of what's his face, Jellicoe. He's a little bit curmudgeon. He's a little bit of all these things that we've seen before. And I just don't even want it. So the fact that he kind of got his attitude adjusted and got it over with, I'm happier with that. So I liked it. Kelvin, what did you think?
I'm probably a carbon copy of you there, Christos. I liked it for exactly the same reasons you've just said. Voyager Shattered is in season 7, the final season, and because it's at the end of the run, like this episode, it works so well as a look back over everything, so you can see the growth. So the fact that just was a complete accident in terms of foresight is unbelievable. So much, like, lovely to see the old uniforms, great to see Ariam, great to see Bryce. I also think as well, they did such an amazing job of making the actors look like they did in the first season. Like, I know we don't like to talk about these of the voyages in Enterprise, but I mean, they didn't really make Will and Deanna look like they did in season 7 of TNG.
Terrible.
Well, so do you think there was a little bit of do you think there's a little bit of CGI added at the end to, like, because Sonequa looked looked significantly younger in the face.
Yeah, and so did Tilly. Wiseman did not look like she does now, and I'm not just talking her style. She looked visibly younger, so I think there may have been a little bit of AI touching up, but it just served the visuals so much. I really believed that we were back in season 1. I must think that when you see Burnham versus Burnham, it was almost a little bit, I had to remind myself that that's not Mirror Universe Burnham. She was almost too evil. So I kind of want to go
aggressive.
I want to watch Sex for Kings as well and think, was she really that pissed off?
Because it would be after, in my mind, after Context is for King, and then before the
before Landry got killed by Ripper.
Yeah.
Before Land, and she got killed in episode 4, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. So right in between.
It's between episodes
4.
3 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's fresh. It's fresh.
Yeah. So I love that. One thing I didn't particularly like, and it's really weird, Amy, it's the thing you've just said you did like. I didn't like the time bug. It was very time crystal type, just something. There was no science fiction to it. It was just something thrown in them as a quick vehicle to make it all happen. Well, I did like the nod to Timescape where we had Rayner's hand age really quickly, like Picard's did in the fruit bowl. I thought that was lovely. But this is an episode, a bit like Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. Is that the name? In season
That
one.
Yeah.
I will go back and watch this episode a lot
Hmm.
on rewatches because it is so episodic, like you've just said, Christos. And it just
Yeah.
gives me all the feels. It reminds me that Discovery is its own entity with its own history, and it's celebrated here. So
Yeah.
I would give it a strong 9 out of 10. I loved it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I liked that the time bug was the reason, and that they didn't just encounter some anomaly that made them jump through time. That there was a science-y reason that was deliberate for the time jump, so it didn't, and it kind of can show you how that can be a weapon. I love how they weaponized it in a way to take them out of the game. It was meant to sideline them. I, you know, 4 episodes in, I'm in love with Discovery again. Like, it's been 2 years we went
Mm.
without new Discovery, and it is almost becoming forgotten. Like, we've had 2 seasons of Strange New World since we last saw Discovery, and we had Picard almost 2 seasons. And, like, there's been so much other Star Trek, so it was like, "Oh, am I gonna be able to get back in this vibe of disco?" And we're here. I love
Here
it.
we are. Here we are. Yeah, amazing. Anything else anyone wants to say about this episode before we move on to the main topic of the day?
Well, I will say it did inspire me to have another Amy's Math Moments because the dampened sinusoidal wave, I don't want to give away too much. But the way that they had and to explain the time jumps and the duration for how long they were there is definitely something I have been percolating it in my mind because it's just such amazing fun math. That I will be doing a little math moment for our Patreon members this week.
Ooh,
This week, yeah.
exciting stuff. So, Christos, why don't you tell the listeners what we are covering today as we continue our disco specials?
Yes, we are actually in week 3 of our disco month here at All Good Things, and today we're going to be covering the architects, and that we mean by that are the showrunners of Discovery. So, continuing our month-long celebration of disco, we continue our architect series, which today is behind the camera special, looking at many showrunners the series has had in 5 years, and boy, have we had some showrunners! Yes, we will continue all the going. Whoa. We will explore all the going ons behind the scenes, which led to the changes in direction for the show, and then discuss our own preferences. And yeah, the show kind of it had its problems and its very public dramas, didn't it?
Yeah, and I love it. I can't wait. There's so much to talk about here.
So drama.
Drama indeed, and drama from the get-go. So with that said, shall we start at the very, very beginning with Brian Fuller?
Yay.
So, Amy, do you want to tell us a little bit about Brian Fuller, his previous work?
Yeah, so we do know the name Brian Fuller because he worked on Deep Space Nine and Voyager. So we're very familiar. Like, I remember it's like, oh my gosh, Brian Fuller is going to lead Discovery. We were all so excited. It's like someone who knows Star Trek is taking the helm. This is going to be great. He was also known for Pushing Daisies, which I'd never seen, and Hannibal. Were his previous, but we just knew him from Star Trek. We all were excited to have him on board.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of Brian Fuller when I look at his writing credits on Star Trek before Discovery. He only really has 2 writing credits on DS9, which are Empok Nor, which, if you think of the tone of that episode, is quite Discovery. And it's dark, it's gritty.
Yeah, totally.
But the other one is The Darkness and the Light, which is Kira in her final stages of pregnancy, and all the Shakar cell are being murdered. And she goes and hunts the guy down. That's one of my favorite DS9 episodes. So I love the connection there. But Voyager really is where it was at. Brian Fuller was present for all of series 4, 5, 6, and 7. and there's about 20 odd episodes that he's got his writing credit against. And looking down the list, I was expecting to see darker, warlike episodes, but really Voyager didn't have a lot of those. Voyager was very happy, clappy, and bright. But lots of the episodes that have got Brian's name on, again, some of my favorite, and there's a lot of Seven of Nine and B'Elanna episodes in that list as well, like The Raven, Juggernaut, Course Oblivion. So some really high concept, high character-driven, female character-driven drama. So yeah, like you've just said, Amy, he definitely has the Star Trek chops. He knew what he was doing. Yeah. And so everything looked like it was going to be amazing with Brian Fuller at the helm. Yeah. So what happened next?
Well, if you think about it, though, he really was probably the original architect of Discovery, and so much of what it became the foundation of it is all him. If you think of it, he brought in Sonequa Martin Green and Michelle Yeoh, and you just talked about him doing very pro-women episodes on Voyager. This guy is obviously very pro-woman, and that's been a big part of the Discovery legacy. So, this is why it's got his footprint all over it. I mean, it's very, he, to this day, much of what Disco is from his concept.
Right, which answers that question, because here we are in season 5, and I'm still seeing his name as executive producer. I'm like, that dude had to have had some ironclad contract for him to be getting credit for this show. But if you think about it, that creation, like, it's like we still give credit to Gene Roddenberry. So that idea of Discovery, definitely we do still continue to credit him.
And I like that. In the days of us being rather cynical with TV production and the way people are kind of pissed all over, pardon my French, it's nice to see a little bit of integrity and a bit of honor and respect to the guy who came up with the original concept for the show, regardless of what he ended up delivering and how the show changed. So yeah, I think kudos to Star Trek for keeping his name on the credits long after he's gone. His writing credits were only the first 3 episodes of Discovery, and then he hands over to the next people who we'll come on to a little bit later. But he had some very conceived ideas about what he wanted Discovery to be that we didn't quite get. What have we got in this list here, though, Amy?
Oh my gosh. How amazing would this have been? He wanted Discovery to be an anthology series with each season being in a different era. Like, how cool would that have been?
How expensive would that have been?
Well, and that's where it jumps in there. It's expensive, and is it the same cast, kind of like American Horror Story, but they're playing different roles, which I don't think that would be the case. And I think that's one of the ultimate reasons they hated it, was the price of building all the sets for 1 year and then trying to become a different show. Now, I think what we did get was Discovery becoming, the birth of this new era of Star Trek. And we ended up at one point having 5 different series going on, and they're all set all over the Star Trek timeline. So we kind of ultimately got that, but through different shows being added. But that was
also, as well, irony of ironies, we've kind of got that anyway with Discovery. Because if you think, I know we talk about the changing tone with the different showrunners, but it has actually created almost an anthology of itself, with the original dark Klingon War into the crossover with what we now know as Strange New Worlds, through to moving forward into the future. They're all so different. So we've got, he kind of delivered accidentally.
Yeah.
Very much accidentally. And I know he clashed over things like budget but one of the other things was design, and that's really interesting to me. I'm like, was he against this redesign of the Klingons? Is that what we're talking about, or is it like the overall darker design, the uniforms, things like that?
I think it was uniforms. That was one of the things I read. in my research that it was quite specifics that he was against that were pushed on him. And he's probably as big a fan as we are. So when we look at Discovery's uniforms and we're like, they weren't wearing those in the cage, he was probably thinking something similar.
Yeah, I watched a really
uniform.
I watched a really cool. I was part of my research for this episode was watching old YouTube interviews with back in time, and Alex Kurtman did a red carpet interview during the premiere of the original pilot, and they were talking about Brian Fuller, and he was talking about what a Trekkie Brian Fuller is and how he really wanted it to be right, and and he was feeling pulled in two directions between American Gods and Discovery because he's worked on both, but that he was a very big Trekkie and was trying to keep that how we would guide a show, I think, as fans, so I could see that being an issue where he was trying to keep it more in canon and looking more like canon.
And he also wanted to choose like the director, especially of the pilots, and CBS came in and said, nope, they hired David Semmel, I think is how you say it. And Brian Fuller did not want that to be the direction of this first, premiere. So it's like he didn't even have control there. That would be very frustrating. It's like you can't control costume, and it's like, I'm the producer. What do you want me to do? It seemed very limited with what he was able to do with Discovery.
Yeah, I think moreover than that, I'm sure I read that he had promised the director's role on the pilot to somebody he knew, would be a friend, a colleague, and obviously CBS came in and said, no, it's going to be John Semmel. So that would have been incredibly embarrassing for him, whether he was authorized to do that or not. But can you imagine?
Yeah. Very frustrating. I mean, so much so that's sort of why they parted.
Yeah. Well, there was several reasons. I'm reading between the lines, and it seems to be, the financiers arguing with the creatives here. And Discovery, as we know, was delayed twice. And the kind of the timeline of Sonequa's availability is interesting, in that if they cast Sonequa and then they named the start date, and she said, I can't do it. I'm still working on Walking Dead. And there were talks about, what do we do instead? Do we cast somebody else? And only by look of the draw of it being delayed was she actually able to take the job. In the panel that she gave on the Star Trek cruise a couple of months ago, Sonequa was saying she'd made peace with the fact that she was offered Star Trek, but it wasn't going to happen for her. And she said, she's a big believer in karma and things happen for a reason. And as much as she loves Star Trek, she just thought, this isn't my time. And then she got the call that actually, no, you can have it because there's been production delays. So yeah, these happy accidents that all go on behind the scenes that we are totally oblivious to until after the event.
Yeah, it's kind of like that idea of kismet, right? Like things just come together, and it's like everything happens for a reason. And if one little thing changes, then everything could go in a whole different direction. And it's how we are here in the moment, because it's everything because of everything that has come before. And yeah, I mean, because can you imagine Disco without Burnham? Or without Sonequa Martin Green as Burnham? Let me rephrase that.
No.
Yeah, it's like that's our captain.
Yep.
I believe there's a little quote here when we talk about him bringing Sonequa and Michelle Yeoh. What have we got here, Amy?
Well, after the first trailer dropped, Brian Fuller was quoted with saying, "All I can say is, my reaction was I was glad to see a Black woman and an Asian woman in command of a starship." So how telling is that, to not even like, I'm glad I worked on it. No thanks, no credit to. Wow, that's very telling.
Yeah,
it's very double-handed, right? Like,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
you're making a nice comment, but yeah, you're really commenting. If that's all the nice, if that's the only thing nice you can find to say, that
Exactly.
says a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you read between the lines of his exit, it says that he left so he could focus on American Gods. It seems
Mhm.
very kind of scripted. That I don't think it was as tidy as that.
Oh, it never is.
What the tea was is that he was fired or left American Gods for the same reason. So it's like, is this it's a you problem, not a us
Well,
problem?
sometimes it's like there are just creative people and there are business people.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I don't think and business is politics. And I don't think he knew how to play that side
Mm.
well. And so it's almost like he's better off not being the EP, but being on the creative team and letting somebody else handle the politics side of it.
yeah, and a creative having to work to a deadline with a budget is a very different world. So I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, or maybe it does, and we just don't really hear or
Mm.
delve into it as much as we do with our beloved series. So Brian left, and he handed over.
Yeah, when did he leave? Because
It
I think that's
was
important.
Yeah. So it was after the first 3 episodes. He's only involved
No.
in the pilot. Sorry, Amy, correct me?
Yeah, he left 2 months before the premiere. He's credited with the 3 episodes, but he left before it even premiered.
But it was but by then it would have all been produced.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so his involvement would have been the entire first season. But yeah, it's just as far as as far as working on the show. But yeah, he was gone by before season 2.
Yeah. And so never got to really enjoy any of the fruits of his labor when it was out, when it was
Right.
received.
Yeah.
And
The press tour.
he handpicked his successors, who are 2 people he's worked on in previous shows, which brings us on to our next set of showrunners, which is a double act, if you will. We have Aaron Harbert and Gretchen J. Berg. So I've just said longtime collaborators with Brian Fuller. And yeah, what do we know about these guys?
Well, they met at Northwestern University and then decided to work together as a team. And we see that quite a bit. And as I'm learning in showbiz, when you see the ampersand, then that means they're together as a team. If you see the word and, then that's 2 individuals.
Oh,
So, yeah. So Herberts and Berg with the ampersand worked as a team and they worked on Beverly Hills 90210. Pepper Dennis, which is on Warner Brothers Network, Pushing Daisies, obviously with Brian Fuller, and Revenge, if you are familiar with any of those shows, which I am not. Well, I know Beverly Hills 90210.
yeah, it would have been the kind of the revival of 90210. I can't imagine them working on the original one back in the 90s.
Yeah. So you want to hear my take on these 2 because they would end up, their story doesn't end well with Star Trek. But I remember seeing them coming on what was After Trek, which was the show that they used to do during season 1 of
Yeah.
Discovery. It was very different than what the Ready Room became.
With
And
Matt Mira. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, oh, and I've tried. Don't even get me started on that
I
podcast.
know.
But I just knew watching them be interviewed that their hubris was off the charts, and it really reminded me of this. I was getting Linda Bloodworth Thompson vibes, which from Designing Women, and that was a very tumultuous behind the scenes, controversial show of what went on behind the scenes of that show. And I was like, these 2 are trouble. Their ego precedes them when they're on camera. They have this arrogance to them. That was all my personal red flags watching them on After Trek, not knowing really anything. And lo and behold, my instincts served me well.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's so weird you've just said that, Christos, because I made a little note to actually say that was my impression from After Trek as well. Moreover, so that when they had the guests, the actors sat with them, they seemed afraid, if that's not too strong a word to use. These two people seemed very intimidating. There was no joviality, no lightness to them. They were very dour. They were very serious. And they just looked a little bit pissed off all the time. So
well, I mean,
these rumors, well, Amy, tell us what are some of the rumors that they were getting up to certainly in the writers' room?
It's that fear and intimidation that I think they were expert at. And I'm just going to put in my 2 cents. When I saw them, I'm like, they've got to stick up their ass. They were very rigid. It didn't look like they would compromise at all on anything. And they did. They created this toxic work environment. They were constantly over budget. So the studios didn't like them. And this was more alleged with Aaron Harberts, but he was alleged to lean over the writer's table and scream explicitives, swear words, at the writing staff. And I can just imagine it like, that's a stupid idea. And you're like, hello, we're in a brainstorming session. Let's, cultivate a good work environment. And I feel bad for Gretchen Berg, but it's really on her too, because she should have stopped it. And if she's not stopping it, then she is okay with it. And it makes her just as complicit as Aaron.
I've always said this in business. If you have the power to stop something and you don't, you are just as guilty because you are failing to do your job.
Yeah. And there was this kind of discussion afterwards where Aaron allegedly, again, we keep needing to say this, allegedly went to the rest of the writers and basically asked them not to tell tales on him. Ooh. Don't go to the top. Don't report to HR this bad behavior. Yeah, right. If someone's behaving like that to me in the workplace, I'm definitely not going to stand for it. And I'm sure the employers wouldn't either.
Yeah, well, I can see where the intimidation there is, though, because sometimes, especially in the past, you would be the one fired for complaining, and you would be the one, and that's where the fear comes from, right? And if I say something, am I going to be eliminated?
There's retribution.
Yeah. And that's where things like Me Too became very important, because that's changed the whole vibe of how these things are handled. Like, the victim is the problem, not the perpetrator. And so we saw the right thing finally happen here with Disco. But yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't get as much research done on them. I had a question that maybe you two might know the answer to. What have they done post-discovery? Did anybody see anything about that? Have they worked in Hollywood, or do they get that stigma attached to them that they're bad news?
I haven't really overly researched.
You're right. That's a good question. I don't remember seeing much when I went to their Wikipedia page. It just sort of stopped there. I think they did small stuff, but nothing.
Yeah. So they got it. So in the end, they got a reputation, and that no one wanted to touch them. So that's the way it should be.
Are you seeing anything, Kelvin?
They went on in 2019 together on executive producers for an NBC show, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which I must say I've never heard of.
I think I barely heard of it, but didn't
but that's
go anywhere.
Well, they left CBS and tried NBC.
Yeah. It's not surprising that they stayed together, because it's probably all they know.
And that's a shame. I mean, it just tells you they have that same philosophy. So, stupid.
Yeah. Leadership style, one would say, but you can't dress bad behaviors and inappropriateness up as a autocratic style. It's just not the done thing. So what happened to them? We got the first season out of them, and they came back for season 2. I think they were involved in the first 5 episodes of season 2. And then news of this got to the top, to Alex Kurtzman, who dismissed them. They had to go, and rightly so. And then Alex himself had to roll his sleeves up and take over the rest of season 2. So here we are now, topic 3, with our third showrunner, Alex Kurtzman. So,
Yeah.
what do you think of this guy? Before I say my piece, I'm keen to hear what you think, because obviously we know Kurtzman. We call it the Kurtzman era. This would have been the equivalent of like Rick Berman stepping in if something had gone wrong. He's a movie maker. He brought the Kelvin timeline film. So how do you think season 2 changed, if at all? If you hadn't known any of this, would you known season 2 went in a different direction? What do you think, Christos?
I think the first half of season 2 is really strong. It does take a little bit of a turn, for sure. And unfortunately, it happens for both the seasons of Disco, right? They're just marred with these behind the scenes drama. So having that vision of what the whole season's supposed to be is, and not having it quite work out that way is quite. I always say it's part of the lore that Disco has to it. But I think Alex did land the plane, though. I did like the way the season ends and whatnot. Some of the design choices that they brought in toward the end of the season, like how many little support ships Enterprise and Discovery had to it, and little choices like that. I'm like, that's a little Star Warsy to me, very Kelvin universe to me. Very outside of any canon that we've known in our Star Trek. So there's little design choices like that and plot choices. And obviously he killed Cornwell. I didn't quite appreciate that. But otherwise, I think he got it there.
Yeah. What do you think, Amy?
I just am in love with Alex Kurtzman. I love calling it the Kurtzman era. I think he has done so well for Star Trek. But specifically with Discovery, there is a definite switch in season 2, because we were red signals, red angels, and then bam, halfway through, it's like, oh, we're going to go with Control and Leland. And I like it. It just was such a switch. But why I like it is that, okay, AI, that's a huge topic, and we're now talking about it now. It was relevant. We get Zora, who I absolutely love, getting the ship a character, like a real character, and getting her sentient, because we get a lot of that, as last episode. I think he did so good. It just was a switch. And like you said, the Berman era, think about the rough start that TNG got until we got Rick Berman. I mean, season 2, there was what's his bucket from the TOS that brought over, and he was
Maurice.
not. Yes, Hurley. Thank you. That was not good. Exactly. So it's like very similar to, the start of the Berman era, and we've got now the Kurtzman era.
Yeah.
I've been on record. Very much like it.
Sorry, Christos.
No, I was going to say that Maurice Hurley. I never thought of it, but he's like the Gretchen and
Yep.
Aaron of Disco, and it was season 2. But yeah, it's the same kind of stuff. I mean, look at look at in the case of how things were handled. Let's do a 30-year comparison between the two. Gates McFadden was fired for speaking up. She was the victim. She was the one treated badly for having an opinion about being, what was wrong about what was going on in that show. Versus 30 years later, the producers were let go in the way it should be. So there's 30 years of change for you. But it very much is the Kurtzman era, though. You're right, Amy. His handprint is there, and at the end of the day, he just had to step in. It's mid-season. They had to keep going. He had to basically take over a writer's room, and with that, there's going to be change, right? Because these two people had a vision. They knew what they wanted to do, and whether that was completely documented or not, or whether Alex maybe agreed with it, of course he's going to start adjusting, putting his own spin on it, especially if his name is going to go on it. So like I said, I like how you pointed out Control. and some of the ways that went, because those were some of the things that gave us a little heartburn about season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to counter that and say I've been on record a lot on this show saying how much I love season 2 of Discovery. It remains my favorite season. It's very action-packed. It goes back to a lot of canon. If you think of Pike, Spock, number 1, we obviously got the Enterprise as well. I agreed a lot of these things would have been laid out in the writer's room prior to him taking over. So, it's not, we can't attribute all of the latter side of season 2's writing and storylines to Kurtzman. But a lot of people dislike season 2 because they felt there was too much going on. When you said we started with the Red Angel, we ended with Control, but there was everything in the middle with, the jellyfish, the what was it? The archive, that the reason that they went to the future, that the data that they took from that, and
The
it is
sphere
quite
data.
that's it, the sphere data, and then there's everything with Culber as well. So there was a lot going on,
Mm-hmm.
but think of the contribution that made to the Kurtzman era, which is not surprising when you think about it. If he is in charge, that we got
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds out of that
Oh,
era.
And say what you will about Control and whatnot in Section 31, but they truly thought that Section 31 was so good that they were going to spin off a series based on it. And
Mhm.
we're still getting it. We're still finally kind of thinking about how the influence of season 2. We're finally going to get a movie about it, but there's a lot that happened in season 2 that did form the foundation of where things went out, even outside of disco. And quick little shout out, since you mentioned Zora, to this week's episode, because there was a little tie into Calypso, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was like, hey, everyone's always wondered about Calypso, right? It doesn't quite make sense since the show jumped to the future, but it got a little bit of a nod of its own little timeline this week.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, and one other thing I like that Alex Kurtzman does, because Kelvin, you talked about he's a big movie guy, like super big. Transformers, Amazing Spider-Man, The Mummy, Star Trek 09, and Into Darkness, just to name a few big hits. But he seamlessly is taking these reboot Kelvin timeline movies and integrating them, like, Picard with the big explosion of the planet, right? That started Star Trek 09. That's worked into Picard. Like, he's making these movies relevant, just as our original 10 movies were so relevant to TOS and TNG. Like, they're there and it's still canon, but he's working in movies together with series. And I think that's smart.
Well, and one really cool way to maybe start to tie up Alex Kurtzman is he got Patrick Stewart back to Star Trek.
Yeah. Well,
I
he
mean,
brought in
maybe.
Akiva Goldsman and some of the other big hitters, and obviously that became into Picard.
Yeah.
Just think about the kind of the excitement. Take yourself back to 2019 when this was happening. It was season 1 of Discovery. There was a lot of chat. There was a lot of hate. It was very mixed. You was either for or against. But season 2, it was when Star Trek started getting really exciting again, because we started getting all of these promises of new series, of more things coming. And it was the start of the second golden age of Star Trek. So the involvement of all of these big hitters, the Robert Orchid, J.J. Abrams, Adam Horowitz, this was really a big jumping point, not only for Discovery, but for Star Trek as a franchise. So, yeah, I think a way to now, as you just said, wrap up Alex Kurtzman as the showrunner before we move on is some of the wins that he had and some of the accolades. What have we got here, Amy?
It was very interesting. Like, you named a couple of them. They are a very tight-knit group. Like, they're friends, they're buddies, and I absolutely love it, because that they like met at university and they just took Hollywood by storm. And in 2011, Forbes magazine named Kurtzman and how do you say? I thought it was Orsi, but Orky? What did you say?
I
I think
can't
it's
remember.
Orsi.
I would say Orsi or whatever.
Okay.
Or Chi.
So they named Kurtzman and Orsi. Now that sounds bad. Orsi. I think it's Orsi. I'm going to say that. Okay. So in 2011, Forbes magazine named Kurtzman and Orsi, quote, Hollywood's secret weapons because their combined earnings of their movies, 3 billion in box office revenues. Like they are major hitters.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to being. I mean, these are like some of these are like the Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
You know, the Transformers. You know, that's been quite the franchise, and then
Ooh.
that's just got a green light again for Transformers and GI Joe together. Is going to be
Oh
a
my
movie.
goodness.
Yeah, and
Wow.
so that franchise lives on.
It's really funny how we were listing the TV shows earlier, and like, has anyone heard of that? I mean, look at the names of those films. We're not going to turn around and say, "What's Transformers?"
What's Spider-Man or the Mummy? Yeah, exactly.
So we move on now to season 3 with a new showrunner, Michelle Paradise. So, Christos, why don't you tell us a little bit about Michelle and her earlier work?
All right. So Michelle wrote, produced, and starred in a short film, The 10 Rules, a lesbian survival guide, which also starred Jennifer Gotti. She was known for playing Bael on Birthright. Oh, pretty cool. And Libby in Voyager. And then she's also done The Originals, which was a spinoff of The Vampire Diaries. And I think, she came in season 3. They were co-executive producers, and I think they're still called co-executive producers. But Alex Kurtzman just recently said during the junkets for season 5 that seasons 4 and 5 of Disco have been all Michelle Paradise. She deserves all the credit. That is her. She's been the one there every day running things. I think Kurtzman is running the Star Trek empire, right? Whereas she's the one there showing up and running things. It kind of reminds me of like, Jerry Taylor doing season 7 of TNG kind of thing. So yeah, and I mean, I think it's really cool to have LGBTQ representation running a Star Trek show and doing it really, really well. I mean, I've been pretty vocal that, season 3 had to get its legs, and they had to get into the future, and it's probably gonna go down as my least favorite season of Discovery as a whole because I'm loving season 5. But 4, I mean, we talked about our love for 4 and how different that was and how cerebral season 4 was, and her being able to be so versatile. And now we're getting a season 5 that's completely different but still enjoyable. To be able to pivot from a season-long arc to more of a episode of the week type of format, I just think I just love Michelle Paradise, and that was a really long run on talk there. But Amy, what do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I sort of feel like no news is good news because she's doing a great job. We're not hearing any issues, any like toxic work environment. The actors seem very happy with the scripts and what they're getting because they're always talking. The writers are so good. And this is who we are talking about. One thing that I found very interesting, which I didn't know in my research, is that she was once a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which I too was also a member of. She was a member for 7 years. She actually attended and graduated from Brigham Young University there in Provo, Utah. But then left the church for personal reasons, which we can all pretty figure out why, because she wrote the 10 rules of a lesbian survival guide.
Well, there's that. Yeah. I also love that she does other writing for Star Trek. Like if you read some of the short stories in Star Trek Explorer, they're written by Michelle Paradise. Some of these one-off comic books that are out there, they're written by Michelle Paradise. If you read the Illyrian Enigma, which was a 5 comic book series that preceded season 2 of Strange New Worlds, Michelle Paradise is writing. So it's kind of nuts that she's blending outside into beta canon almost to doing some writing, which is really cool.
Has she been to a convention ever? Have we seen her at STLV?
I think she's done San Diego Comic Con, but I don't
Okay.
think she's been to STLV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to see her on a panel. I need more
Yeah.
information.
So, and this might make a little bit of sense with STLV and whatnot not being official anymore. You're not getting the actual
Yeah.
Paramount CBS people. I mean, the actors are one thing, right? But getting
Mhm.
some of the behind the scenes talent, it's less likely for them to show up because it might be seen as official.
Yeah. I think we need to mention as well, we talked about the movie that she was responsible for producing and starring in. That actually got converted into a TV show, and she starred in the TV show also. So it was a big surprise to me doing research. I did not know Michelle Paradise as an actress. I didn't know
Right.
she had that. And you hear a lot about Jonathan Frakes being the actor's director, and that's one of the reasons everybody loves him. And I wonder if the fact she was an actress as well has lended itself to her success. The very much in contrary to all of the, dare I say, negative press we've seen about predecessors here, the response to Michelle Paradise from the actors on Discovery on panels that I've seen is everybody speaks so highly of her, and
Mhm.
she's so respected and well regarded, which is such a happy ending really for Discovery, in that they finally got to a place of respect and collaboration and just job satisfaction. Discovery has had this little bit of a reputation of a tone of, it very much focuses on mental health and well-being, and are you okay? Is everything fine? Let's talk about these feelings. And it's not for everyone. I do get the sense that that's Michelle Paradise's legacy of
Mm.
the direction Discovery took at season 3, as opposed to just the Kurtzman action series that we had before. What has been your preference or response to this kind of feeling of Discovery? Has it been for you? What do you think, Christos?
I have lots of thoughts because, first off, it's great to see like LGBTQ representation. And that's been a little bit, in my opinion, sometimes a little bit too much like focus on it. The mental health stuff I think is very important. And here's the deal, and I'm really starting to realize this. Things are changing, especially with millennials and Gen Z. I just attended a product support conference for Caterpillar this week at work. We're talking about technicians and things like that. Very very traditionally a man's, that kind of
Mhm.
stereotypical. We don't talk about this. There was a whole 2-hour session on mental health and
Wow.
suicide in the industry and watching out for certain signs, and the fact that because this group of our population don't talk about their feelings and they internalize, and the suicide rate is much higher. And we're here talking about this at a time we normally would be talking about product, and not, we're talking about cerebral topics like mental health. And it was nice. It was like a wow moment for me, 25 years in this industry, to see us doing that now. And I think, drawing this back to Discovery, this is where we are in society now, that these things that would normally be stigmatized and we would not talk about as a society are now being talked about. And that makes some people uncomfortable, especially
Mhm.
older folk who aren't comfortable talking about it. In my own family, the men in my family don't talk about their feelings, and and there has been some mental health issues because of it. And whereas, I'm an open book, as y'all know, and I think the more we are open, the more we talk about how we're feeling and why we're feeling certain ways, the better off we are just as a society. And people call that being woke. I call that being human. So um, I think people can just stuff that in their pipe and smoke it if they don't like it. And I think here we are. Um, and like I said, I think if you would ask me a year ago to answer that question, I might have answered it a little bit differently. But having that experience this week at that conference, I was like, oh, this is actually broader than Hollywood. It's, it's coming to realize that this is workplace safety too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's weird. You just said about safety. I work in safety, and the health and safety executives, all the stats 10 years ago would be about working days lost through people having a bad back. Whereas now it's all through mental illness or mental health issues, stress at work, people taking time off, through challenges in that way. So you're right. It's not just a cultural phenomenon. It's understood in terms of safety as well. So yeah, really interesting. So when are you going to rebrand Caterpillar as Butterfly?
Oh, don't go
Wow.
there. Don't go there. We need to move in baby steps. But naturally, that's not my call anyway. But I think it's just like I said. It makes me feel very good to see my industry evolving in a way that, like I said, even as a gay male, the way I was, not quite invited to be myself in the past have completely changed.
Yeah.
And you are more celebrated for your diversity now than you are excluded for it.
And we are seeing Star Trek take the same journey. So anything more to say on Michelle Paradise?
Yes, I would like to talk about the emotional tone that Star Trek has taken.
Please do.
Looking at these 5 seasons, not recognizing it at the beginning, but definitely seeing it now, that is Michelle Paradise influence. And I feel that these seasons of Discovery are a master class in how to be a better person. And I think a lot of people just like to watch TV and not learn anything, just let it be dead, airwaves coming in and out of their eyes. And that's not Discovery. We are learning how to have not just a romantic relationship, friendships, and how to get over conflict and we get, like you were saying, the mental health with Culber and recognizing the drama and the stress that they had with jumping into the future and all of that wrapped up. Like every week, I feel like I've learned how to be a better community member. I've learned how to improve my communication and to improve my mental health of how to think about things without getting so offended with just saying, look, this is how it is. This is what I need. Can you give it to me? Yes or no? And then go from there. It's been amazing. And that's one of the reasons why I love Discovery. And I've said it on Union Federation, especially last week. It was just like, we are getting this master class, how to have relationships 101 with this season of Discovery.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think it's time for some final thoughts then. It sounded
that
very
was it.
final
That
in
was a good one
itself.
for me.
Yeah, Amy, you're done. What about you, Christos? What are your final thoughts on the showrunners of Discovery?
I think, to piggyback on what Amy just said there, I think Discovery had its ups and downs, but it's definitely found its rhythm in Alex Kurtzman and Michelle Paradise. I want to liken and just tie that back to TNG, Amy, your thoughts about like when Jerry Taylor got involved toward the end of TNG, you started to see more women-centric type episodes, and definitely the show was definitely more balanced and fair, I would say. And that the fact that I watched Star Trek, I'm proud that I watched Star Trek, actually, to say, and that I have friends that like to watch, Real Housewives and all that crap. And I'm like, it is mindless television. I get it. Sometimes everyone likes what they call it, their guilty pleasures, as they say. But there's so much television to choose from in 2024 with all of the platforms. And to say that I like to watch something that challenges me to think, that helps me evaluate who I am as a person, that helps me try to be a better person, and gives me something to think about, whether we're talking about feelings or whether we're talking about the universe as a whole. I am educated and I am the smarter person for watching Star Trek, and I'm very appreciative of that.
Oh, lovely. I'm going to keep it very sweet, short and sweet, I beg your pardon, and just say that Discovery started fuller drama, but we ended up at paradise. So we'll leave that there.
My gosh, Kelvin, I love you. That is brilliant.
What else can you listen to on the BQN? Replicate yourself a mug of hot chocolate and join Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin as they discuss everything and anything in the Star Trek universe on All Good Things. Boost yourself with an energy drink and join Davey on YouTube and Twitch for reviews and live streams of classic, cheap, and sometimes more recent video games on Bargain Bin Gamer. Brew yourself a pot of coffee and join Jeremiah to discuss Star Trek Voyager on The Captain's Couch. Mix your favorite cocktail and join Mark and Matt at Cinema Z to discuss the films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Pour a cup of tea, Earl Grey, hot, and listen to Stephen and Keith as they discuss the next generation of Trek on Galaxy Class. Get yourself something caffeinated and learn an interesting bit of history with Chrissy and Jason on History with the Szilagys. Have a bowl of Flo-Meek soup and join Thad and Chrissy and a guest to discuss new episodes of Star Trek as they are released on Infinite Diversity. Have something to sharpen your mind and put your Trek knowledge to the test with the Treksperts quiz. Take a bite out of something that didn't seem edible and join Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley covering all things in New Trek, including that show that is Trek in all but name, The Orville, on Union Federation. Get your Sunday brunch ready for The View Screen, a live weekly talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy with featured guests talking about all things Trek. Pour a glass of wine and spill some tea with Christos, where he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with an LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea, Bev? And Patreon members get to pass around that green bottle of Aldebaran whiskey once a month on the round table, and they can listen to It's Green with Mark White and Amy's Math Moments.
So, Christos, where are we going next week as we conclude our month-long Discovery season?
It's come so fast, too. I can't believe we're talking about week 4 of Disco Month, but I did like the idea of Disco Month. Might have to revisit that as other shows premiere. So next week we're going to be, I think it'll be a really good topic here. We're going to discuss Discovery's 4 captains, Lorca, Pike, Saru, and Burnham, and our Control series. And so we'll dive deep into our 4 captains and talk about our preferences, their different styles, and all that fun. So it'd be a really good episode.
Can't wait for that. We would love to hear what you thought of today's show and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, or on our Discord server to continue the discussion there. You can also reach us at AllGoodPod on Twitter and Bluesky. And please make sure you follow the network on Twitter, Bluesky, and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. We've also partnered with our friends at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching the master feed. Links can be found in the show notes. So, Amy, where can people find you when you're not taking over writers' rooms after firing all the staff?
Well, they deserved it. So you can find me here in the network where I'm co-hosting Union Federation. We're back going strong, covering the new Trek Discovery. So you can hear my thoughts there more in depth. I am on our Facebook group, BQN Collective, but my favorite place is our Discord server. So Christos, when you're not the architect of all good things, where can people find you?
Oh, I don't think I've ever been the architect of all good things, but definitely a steerer. You can find me, I guess probably the easiest place to find me now is in Discord, which I am loving. I have had to turn down notifications sometimes because we have so much activity in there now. It's amazing. It's really lit up. But you can find me in the BQN Collective on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at GreekSD or at What's the T-Bev. And you can also find me on What's the T-Bev as I'm rolling out about 2 new episodes a month now. So we're found a rhythm. And so, Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not getting bit in the arse by a time bug?
Love it. You can find me on the socials at Kelvin's Timeline, or you can find me on the Facebook group, the BQN Collective, and I'm increasingly logging into Discord. You're right, there's that many channels, there's that much chat, there's a lot to read, there's a lot to get involved with over there. So yeah, it's becoming my favorite place to be.
Okay, how cool would that be to have a time bug that you could control and be like, okay, it's Sunday afternoon, I've got 4 hours. Let me go 4 hours back on the cruise. Oh my, you would see me there all the time.
I would just prefer a holodeck, I think, but you know. It
No,
sounds a
I
little
want to
safer.
be with you guys.
True.
I just used the time bug to cut out the long flight that we have to take. So yeah, that's the worst part of traveling.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like, basically, give me a transporter. There we go. If you'd like to keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Let's Play reaction show, Script Reading, and enjoy our special Patreon shows, It's Green and Amy's National. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
Now, if becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, or hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leaving us a star rating and written review. That really does help others to find the show, and we would love to be found.
At this time, we would like to thank our very own associate producers with Mahendran Radhakrishnan and JJ Seastrum. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and to Mark White for our artwork each and every week. Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us as we search out
All good things.